I now request the speaker to begin. Thank you.
Good evening, all. This is Suresh here from Swadeshi Stevia Farms, Mumbai. Am I audible to all?
Yes, Mr. Suresh, you are audible.
Yeah. Let's talk about the stevia cultivation and its value addition. See, we are basically stevia cultivation channel partners for multiple extraction units, and we guide farmers and associated farmers all across India and Sri Lanka and Bangladesh and Nepal, and integrate the harvest produce with the uh, manufacturers of a stevia extraction. Now let's understand what stevia is all about. Stevia is basically just yeah. Stevia rebidana is an important commercial crop. It is mainly used as a sweetener in food and pharmaceutical industry, as you can see in the presentation. The plant is originally from Paraguay near Brazil. It is now cultivated in large scales in China, Brazil, and South America. The global production was almost about 5,100 metric ton in 2014, and presently it is around 6,500 ton in 2020. So, China is a major producer and exporter of stevia products, basically. Now, the post-COVID, the China was being a major exporter of food. This thing now people are inclined towards going for an alternative source from away from China. So this has opened the major avenue for farmers and uh, people who are interested in going for an alternative crop from a conventional this thing. Because stevia is a 5-year crop. Once the farming is done, you have to maintain the farm for 5 years, and you will have a harvest every 3 months for next 5 years. Only they need to manage the farm. Let me go to the other side. The advantages of stevia cultivation is it has a huge potential to disrupt consumer health, farmers' income, and environment. It's a perennial hub, as I told you. It's a 5-year. You can take a harvest from the date of plantation. You can harvest of every year you will get 5 to maximum of 5 harvest and minimum of 4 harvest you can expect. So the cash flow generation will be available. Every quarter people can take the benefits of it. And in India, most of the places it is suitable for cultivation. We are having a cultivation almost in all part of India, except for where it is having a Jammu and Kashmir on the freezing point where it goes. The ideal temperature conditions could be anywhere between 18 to 40. So, but lower than 5-6 degrees, we do not recommend stevia cultivation. Basically, stevia is plant species which is considered to be a natural, and it is in use for last 1500 years. The local people of Brazil and Paraguay use these leaves as a sweetener for teas and medicine. This plant is a perennial herb which can attain a maximum height of 90 centimeters. And there are multiple varieties are there. In India, basically, we are having two varieties, that is Morita and Him stevia. These are the maximum two varieties which is being planted in all across India. there are two contents in stevia basically, stevioside and rabiodioside. Stevioside is basically it will have a slightly afterbitter taste. It is generally used for beverage industries, and the rabiodioside is basically used for the all other. It will never have a afterbitter taste. It is in a pure form of uh, natural this thing with 300 to 400 times sweetness than tabletop sugar what we consider. So, and it is 100% natural. Give me a second. The uses of stevia leaves basically, you know, uh, it has two applications. One is to they use it in a herbal form. Another is in a extracted form, basically. So in the herbal forms, the percentage of the usage will be very less in comparison with the extracted sugar. The demand for high quality stevia leaves is increasing. In fact, as a cultivation partners, we are having a requirement of almost around 500 acres. We have to integrate to the factory at Ahmedabad, Gujarat. So, which we have, including overseas, we are able to finish only around 175 acres as of now. So, we still have almost around, you know, uh, 275 acres cultivation is required from our end to be integrated to the factories, basically. So the demand is dramatically increasing in India because of, as I told earlier, the global market scenario for China's this thing. People are preferring Indian products over Chinese food products. So uh, on that, this thing, we have a production capacity at Ahmedabad, which is 5 ton per day of input, which they are increasing to the second phase, 10 ton per day requirement by end of 2024. So this crop is definitely having a good potential, uh, considering the growing demand in the Indian market. There are a lot of new extraction units also being set up in one in Karnataka and one in Chhattisgarh. They are coming up by 2025. It will be operational. See, stevia has many advantages for the diabetic patients. It has been tested on so many reports are available. It is very beneficial. I will share some products, value-added products, which we have developed ourselves, which is regulates the blood sugar level, and even the people with the insulin doses have it has come down to normal. can see here, there are some tests which was conducted. Stevia absolutely has no side effects. It's 100% natural listing, and it has proved beneficial for even weight loss. It is with zero glycemic index and zero calories, close to zero calories. And stevia again is beneficial for tooth decay also. And some studies have even shown that it regulates even the blood pressure. And it has some good effects on hypertension also. These are the tests which are conducted on samples for this thing, just proven with the documentary evidence. Stevia is also considered to be beneficial for skin care. These are the countries, which that the stevia is approved. It's almost all over the globe. The stevia has been approved by US drug company, and in India, FSSAI and European Food Safety Authority. As far as health benefits of stevia, if you want to summarize one thing, the compound glycosides present in the leaves has a significant impact upon consumption. The characteristics that make it suitable for tooth thickening are it controls the high blood pressure, obesity, and chest infections. It's 100% safe for diabetic patients. It is also found, it improves the cardiovascular health. As I mentioned earlier, it is free of calories. It's almost close to zero calories. So the compounds cannot be metabolized by the human body. It helps to improve the gastrointestinal activities. Stevia has basically a lot of vitamins, minerals, proteins, carbohydrates, etc. But when it is in an extracted form, all other things is thrown out, and only the sweetening part is used as a stevia or a rebioticide. But when the people are using it as a herbal sweetener, even though the concentration of the stevia sweetening is less, but they can get the benefits of other contents of a stevia which is present. That is where it mainly helps as a food supplement for health, where it contains a lot of vitamins, minerals, and carbohydrates and proteins. So the people prefer to have the stevia harbor powder as a whole rather than using it as a in a extracted form. Of course, the extracted form will have more than 300 to 4% sweetness, which If you're using only as a sweetening purpose, then you have to use it in an extracted form. But as a stevia for a health, if you want to use the herbal powder or consuming the whole leaf is beneficial. It is safe for all the age groups. The export markets are growing up, as I mentioned earlier, because of the most of the European countries are preferring, away from the China. Anybody who is able to supply the Revio sites and the Stevia sites, they are most open to accept it. Only thing, the price competition is there in comparison to China market. That is the only challenge Indian, manufacturer is having. But that is again putting a stress on the how uh, the pressure is passed on to the farmers to give the harvest at a competitive price. That is another challenge. But as far as the demands are concerned, as you are all aware that the obesity and diabetes and heart disease rates in India, considering India has a population of 1.3 billion. So, India itself is a huge market. Even though the government has, approved 2015, for last 8 years, the growth of stevia is very marginal, and there is a huge potential for a growth. So, considering all these factors, stevia has a promising years ahead. See, the global stevia market report was published in 2019. So the present this thing, it is going to be 818 million by 2024. We are very close to it now. As far as in India, the cultivation, the government incentives are there. The subsidy of 30% is given on entire plantation project, maximum of 30 lakhs per farmer. As far as the buyback proposal arrangement, as I told, we are integrated with multiple extraction units. Uh, we, make a buyback agreement through that factory. Wherever it is less than 10 acres, we will be doing agreement from our end. And wherever it is above 10 acres, we will be integrating directly with the factory, because less than 10 acres, it will not be feasible for documentation and logistics purpose. So that is the reason we will be taking up in a small groups and form a local, farmers producers association and integrate that supplies to the factory basically. The present rate of dry leaves which we are procuring from our farmers is 125 rupees per kg. These are the dry leaves basically. Stevia basically extracted using either alcohol process or through water solvents. So the extract stevia is concentrated further up to 99% purity of riboside we can have, and stevia side up to 95%. These are the two major contents which are available in stevia in form of a sweetener. That is, stevia side is also will be sweetener, but it will have a after bitter taste. This compound will have an after bitter taste. I mean, when you consume a sweet, you will find that after you have a this thing, your taste buds, you will feel the bitterness. But whereas in Rebiodio side, you will not have that after bitter taste. Again, in the commercially, the Rebiodio side cost is 3 times higher than stevia side, and slowly the stevia side market is diminishing, and it is used only in the beverages basically, and even now they are switching over to Rebiodio side. So that is again, the improvement what we are making in a cultivation is developing a high Rebioside content stevia uh, plants, so that people can take advantage of that, and the factories also will have their ROI recovered as quickly as possible. This is basically, input is stevia trialing for extraction, and what is required is water and food grade chemical solvents, and output is received as a Rebiodio up to 99% purity, and stevia side up to 95% of the purity. The benefits of stevia cultivation is, it is going to be uh, suitable for most of the Indian climatic conditions, and it's a perennial. The leaf part is the one which is useful for and economical, and furthermore, even the stems have been found useful for the animal feed, the cattle feed, and the chicken fodder. So they have found, the testing has been done. The thing which have been fed with this thing has a significant growth in comparison to the those who are not fed with the stevia stem as a fodder. So there is a new opportunity also there, even to as a byproduct, the stem parts, the entire plant can be used once the leaf part will be going for extraction of natural sweeteners, and the stem part can be considered for uh, taking the animal fodder. Basically, it is the stevia is the best method of planting is through stem cutting this thing, because we do not recommend through seed germination, because when the seed germination is taking in various different climatic condition and the soil condition, the content of the stevia side and herbicide tends to vary. So that is the reason we always recommend to go for the plantation through transplanting of developed plants from the nursery. The issues, as far as the issues concerned, the initial growth is slow. It means you will have the peak performance of the stevia in the second to fourth year. The first year, it requires uh, pruning has to be done. The branches have to emerge. So the initial year, the production capacity will be very low. So the optimum production, the yield you can expect in the second year to fourth year, and again fifth year it is going to start reducing. So the initial stages, per harvest you may get only 150 to 170 kilo per harvest. So that should not discourage farmers because it is going to be increasing every with every harvest. It will be improving on the yield part, and it doesn't require more of water except during a peak summer. Rest of the season, once a week irrigation would be sufficient. And during peak summer, it requires irrigation every alternative day. But this stevia cultivation should be avoided where the water loggings are there because the root gets shortened. And this plant is being invested for 5 years. If it is planted in the areas where the water logging is there, it is going to, the plants are going to die. So whatever the investment has been made on a plant is going to go waste. So it is always, advised wherever the water logging is there, a proper drainage has to be done, and then only the plantation should be taken care. As I told you, the climate, most of the Indian states is suitable for cultivation where it is temperatures are going to the freezing point. There we do not recommend stevia cultivation. And pH level of 5.5 to 7.5 is perfectly all right for stevia cultivation. But the pH value, because higher than 8, it should be avoided. Or the improvement of a soil pH level should be reduced to less than 7.5 and then only take up for a stevia cultivation. Stevia is basically recommended to do it, grow it on a rice bed. You know, it is never recommended to go on a flat this thing. So it is always recommended to go for a plantation on a rice bed, minimum of 1 feet height. It is recommended. 10 inch to 1 feet height is recommended. And in each rice bed, it is again going to depend on what type of irrigation facilities we are going to consider. Whether we are going to have a minimum of 2 rows to maximum of 5 rows of stevia plant can be put on a bed. Whether we are going to have for what type of a drip irrigation system, considering that we can take a call. Approximately 35 to 39,000 saplings can be accommodated on 1 acre of a land, which is when it is planted between 7 to 8 inches between each plant. So basically, as I told, the tissue culture plants or the stem cutting method, this thing only it is recommended, not through the germination, taking out the germination at the new location. We will not be, guaranteed to have what is the content which may come from that new germinated plants. So it is always recommended to go for a transplanting through the sapling. Again, when you are going for a what you call either you are going for 100% organic farming or with usage of fertilizers. So if we can take a call on that. It is recommended to go for an organic way of farming. Yeah. See, the weed control is the main thing when we are having this thing. Before that, I will just tell about irrigation. The irrigation can be done either we have a irrigation flood irrigation method also, and we also have on a sprinkler method or on a drip irrigation. It is again depending upon each farmer's the budget constraint. They can adapt whatever the method of this thing. But when they are going for a mulching sheet, the drip irrigation is essential. Otherwise, they can even go for a when they are going without mulching sheet, they can either go for a sprinkler or a flood irrigation. But when we are doing without mulching, the weed management is if the land is with a lot of weed prone area, it becomes laborious work to have a weed control in the initial stages, because weed has to be managed. As I told you, the height of the stevia is going to be around 2 feet. So you should ensure that the other weeds should not take over the stevia, grow more than the height of the stevia. The small weeds are okay, but the big weeds, it should not take over the stevia, so that you will have problem during the harvesting season. So this is the thing. If you're going with the what you call without mulching, you're going with a flood irrigation. There is a lot of challenges there on a weed management, basically. Regular weed removal uh, to be done in the initial stages. Again, pesticides, either you on a case-to-case basis, you can, there are a lot of pesticides available to control on a thing, because when we are doing a farming, when the other neighboring farmer uses the pesticide, the insects are take over to the other farm. So we may have to use some pesticides as and when required, but to have a preventive and have it in an organic manner, if you're spraying a neem oil, even in-house neem oil can be prepared, that we can discuss in a separate this thing. So if it is done on the periodically every month, the attack of a pest can be totally reduced. Post harvesting and post harvesting practices are very important. The stevia should be harvested just before the flowering takes place. Means after the flowering, the content of a stevia and riboside drastically comes down. So you should never allow the stevia to have the flowering. If it is flowering, then your selling of your harvest becomes rather challenging and difficult. As far as it goes for what you call the commercial extraction purpose. If you're selling for a retail customers at the dry leaf, then it has no impact, but it should be avoided, and the harvesting has to be done just before the flowering takes place. And again, after harvesting, it has to be dried on the open sun for not more than 4 to 6 hours, and then it has to be shifted to the semi-shade area for drying. Overexposure to sun, it will the leaf turn black, and it becomes it will not have a market value. And similarly, if you are not drying fully, again, when you are packing it, if the moisture contents are there, then again the leaf will have a fungus. Then also it becomes a not marketable thing. So you have to take care. Minimum 4 to 6 hours you will have to have a sun exposure, and then shifted to the another 6 hours to in a shaded area. It has to be dried. 100% moisture should be removed from the leaf, and then it has to be packed in a in a bag, plastic bag, and it should be kept away from the moisture area. And once it is properly dried, this can be stored for any number of years. It will not matter. The content of the stevia and riboside is going to remain intact. The average yield, as I told, the first year and the fifth year, we will have a less uh, yield, but in between year, that is second year to fourth year, you will have an optimum yield, which varies anywhere between 1800 kg to up to 2500 kgs. It varies. It again, we cannot have a definite guaranteed this thing, because it depends on a lot of agroclimatic conditions, the soil condition. It vary anywhere between between 1200 kg to 1800 kg. It can go if the farm is maintained and the conditions are as required to the stevia. The thing, the sunlight exposure is good, then we can take a production up to 2500 kg per acre when it is planted with 39,000 saplings per acre. So these are the uh, cultivation extension and revenue generation for 5 years. This is again considering the uh, average price of a 125 rupees per kg. We are discussing with the extracting unit to increase the price to up to 150 to 175, because considering the efforts by the farmers, we want to give more. But again, the extraction unit and the factories having a challenge. They are competing with the China market globally. So even they have that challenges. So we are still pushing to uh, increase this price, so that the farmers can get higher returns than what presently they are able to get from stevia. I think this is it. I've finished the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Suresh, for the
Yeah,
detailed presentation. Now I'll take up some questions.
yeah,
In the meantime, you can stop sharing the screen and you can
yeah,
on your camera. Okay. So the first question is, what are the key requirements for successful stevia cultivation, such as climate, soil type, and growing conditions?
see, the climatic conditions is stevia is a sun-loving plant basically. The more the sunlight exposure is available, you will have a one second. I will. Yeah. See, uh, see the more sunlight is available, sunlight exposure is there, the stevia will have more good yield. So anywhere between 18 to 30 degree is the ideal condition for a stevia. And as I mentioned in the presentation, the soil condition should be, the pH level should be anywhere between 5.5 to 7.5 pH. If it is less than 7, above less than 5.5 and above 8, it is not recommended to go for a stevia cultivation.
Okay. Next question is, can you provide an overview of the stevia cultivation process from planting to harvesting?
Yeah. See, basically, from uh, generally when the land is prepared uh, through the rice bed, and then the saplings will be coming either from a nursery, and then it will be stacked at the site one day, exposing the saplings to the what we call the local atmosphere, and subsequently within 2 or 4 days, 2 to 4 days, the transplantation activity should be completed. And after that, the fourth week of the, you can from a second week only, you will be the new leaf will be emerging, and the third week you can clearly see the new leaves emerging on the field. At the fourth week, what we will do, we will be asking them to prune cut the top part of the stem, so that the side shoots can take out. The pruning is the important step for improving the yield. So it is basically it is taken after 3.5 weeks to fourth week. This exercise must be completed. So during the transplantation, whatever the labor force is required, the similar force is required for the pruning activity. And once that is done, from after the pruning is done, basically we will be having a within 45 to 60 days, it will be ready for the first harvest. And again, it is going to vary whether it is going to happen. The budding of a flowers will start at the 45th day or 60th day. It again depends on the climatic condition. So as for before the flowering, the stevia should be harvested at whatever the condition it is there. It can be either 45 days or 60th day. And in between, the weed management has to be taken care, so that there are no weeds. The bigger weeds are not taking over the stevia. That is the main important part of it. And after the harvest, again, the drying of a stevia leaves, 4 to 6 hours minimum sunlight exposure, and then again another 8 hours in a shaded area. It has to be dried before packing. And this cycle repeats again afterwards. That is, every after the harvesting is done, again you will have a harvest within 2.5 to 3 months maximum. You will have the next cycle of a harvest, and it repeats for the next 5 years.
Okay. Next question. Can you share insights on the ideal harvesting time for stevia and best practices for post-harvest handling and processing?
The best stevia, this thing, as I told, it has to be harvested before the flowering. If after the flowering, the stevioside content and the rabioside content is drastically comes down, so it is not at all recommended to have a harvesting after the stevia flowering takes place. So it has to be done before the flowering takes place, and then leaving the harvesting. The best method of harvesting is you have to leave at least 10 centimeters from the bottom of this thing. You should not be cut to the this thing, because the side shoot will be taking the last 1 or 2 notes. We have to leave it and then cut the harvesting. So harvesting should not done to the tip of the close to the what you call the end of the soil level. At least uh, 2 to 2 notes of a minimum plant area should be left, and then it has to be harvested. Most of the farmers, they do a mistake of cutting to the close to the soil. That should not be done, because at least if they have to leave 2 notes and then take a harvest. And after the harvesting is done, again it has to be exposed to the sunlight for 6 hours, as I mentioned, and in shaded area at least for 8 hours. So the color of this thing, it should be remain as a green only. That is considered as a good practice of this thing. If it turns out to be a black, then it has a overexposure, and the nutrient content and the stevioside and rabioside content of the leaf has lost. So it loses the market value. Hello. Are you there, ma'am? Hello. 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 Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Suresh. I lost the connection for a while.
Yeah.
Just give me. I'll just read. Okay. So the next question: are there any specific cultivation techniques or practices that can maximize the yield and quality of stevia crops?
Can you come again, madam? There was a disturbance in your audio.
Once. Yeah. Are there any specific cultivation techniques or practices that can maximize the yield and quality of stevia crops?
Yeah. See, basically the yield improvement, there are two things, is the pruning of a stevia and the first after the transplantation, that is after 4 weeks of a transplantation. If it is done, the pruning activity is done properly, the yield will, substantially increase. We have seen farmers who have been advised to do the pruning, but somehow, they skip that process of doing a pruning, and the other farmer who follows the instruction, the production is almost double. So the pruning has to be done, and the branches, when your pruning is done, the side shoots will take place. The more number of branches, the more number of branches, the more number of leaves. That will give you the more production, basically. And the other part is, it again depends on the number of hours sunlight is falling on the stevia plant. The more number of hours sunlight is exposure available, the more growth of the leaves will come.
Okay. And what are the different varieties or cultivators of stevia available, and what factors should farmers consider when selecting the most suitable variety for their region?
Yeah, basically, as I told you, mentioned earlier, see, there are lots of varieties which are available in India, but they are all from almost 2008. Those varieties are coming. There are a lot of new varieties which have come. There are some this thing with CSIR, him stevia. They have now taken on this thing that has a maximum rebioicide content, because the steviocyde is slowly, the market is diminishing, because it will have a after bitter taste. See, there are some farmers considering a low cost sapling, they go for it and they do not know what are the effects of it, because it becomes, if you are having a stevia, it will be having a sweetness, but when you chewing that, if it has a after bitter taste, it means the steviocyde content is more than rhabdoioside. So there are plants which are available which has a higher rhabdoioside content, which has a more sweetness. And when it goes to the commercial production of a stevia extract, which has a more rhabdoioside content in the plant, has a marketable value. So there are CASR Palanpur, they have developed a hint stevia that has in India the maximum uh, what you call rhabdoioside content stevia. So we will be able to supply the high rhabdoioside content stevia saplings from our nursery.
Okay. Now we have just a couple of questions. Are there any specific certifications or quality standards that stevia growers need to meet to ensure a marketability of their products?
Uh, Not definitely, because see, whether as far as the content of the stevioside and rhabdoioside is concerned, if that is there, and the good practices of a farming is been taken care with the proper guidance, there is no certification is required as such. What finally matters is the quality of the produce what is available. that makes the marketable. None of the other certification is not required.
Okay. Can you provide some examples of successful stevia cultivation and value addition initiatives that have resulted in profitable ventures or sustainable businesses?
See, basically, if you have this thing, we have a cultivation in our own farms, and we help other farmers to have our own, you know, planting material and have this thing. Apart from giving a stevia to the extraction unit, we have developed our own brand, and there are 4 farmers. They are selling stevia dry leaves in their own brand name for the local suppliers. See, when we are selling to the retail market, it is going as a 125 rupees per kg. Suppose you are able to see me, these stevia leaves, basically we have our own brand. So this is 100 grams stevia leaf, which we are selling in a market at 250 rupees. It means
Okay.
Per kg of a stevia leaves we are selling at 2,500 rupees. Of course, the branding and the packaging, everything we need to consider, but still we are producing this almost 2,500 rupees per kg. 4 of my farmers, they are selling to the retail market in their own cities. So this becomes this is basically used for in a pure herbal form. They will be using it for sweetening the tea, organic, this thing, leaf. So this is a value addition. We can, the farmers can, identify the thing, local market, and have this thing. And this is again the herbal powder, which we have pulverized from the leaf, and we have our own brand, and we promote, because we cannot supply it in all over the place, and the marketing and other things will come. I have a farmer in Telangana and also in Chennai. I have helped them to set up their own brand and sell it in the retail market. When it goes stevia tonic, this is for diabetic patients. We have made our own extract. As I told you, it is a crude extract of a stevia, not as a sweetener. When this has been, proven to reduce the even the insulin level to that extent. It regulates naturally, increases the pancreas to secrete the insulin. So these are the value addition. We can have our own products launched in this thing when we are having a good cultivation, instead of depending upon the extraction unit for a third party. This thing, the entrepreneurs who are interested to have developed their own products and sell it in the market, they can do it.
Okay. So now we have the last question. Please let us know little about your career background and what made you to take an interest in this field.
Yeah, I'm basically electronics and telecommunication engineer. I was in Dubai for as a project engineer for 10 years. When I came back in 2004, one of my friend introduced me to Stevia as a plant. That has interested me in this amazing plant. And then I started working on with them for marketing this thing. And then eventually I had to develop a lot of farmers to that company. And as I get into the introducing farmers to the thing, then I started my own farming. And it is looking back almost from 2014, I am into the cultivation. Now I help other farmers also to grow stevia, and by supplying the technical consultancy and providing the planting materials from our nursery and integrating the 2 factories. And we have just started a 50 acres plantation at Sri Lanka also, for which I am a technical consultant. And they have a plans to go for a stevia cultivation and setting up an extraction unit at Sri Lanka itself. As of now, they will be exporting to India, to Ahmedabad. And we are having a plans to set up extraction unit at Sri Lanka also. That's about it.
Okay, so you have left your IT job?
Yeah, it's long back.
Okay. That's very good to know. So I think, yeah. So there are no more questions left. So now we have come to end of question round. On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, we like to thank you for the detailed presentation and answering all the questions in depth. And we also like to thank all the participants for joining this meeting. The meeting will now be closed. And for your information, I've shared your contact number and email address with our participants so that they can reach out to you directly.
Madam,
Yeah.
you have to share the you have shared the Stevia Sugar Company.
Yeah.
Swadeshi Stevia Farms at gmail.com is my email ID. Please take a note of that email
One
ID,
second.
I've
1 second.
which I've already shared with the Dhanlakshmi ji
Stevia Farms.
at Swadeshi Stevia Farms at gmail.com.
Swadeshi. Okay. Swadeshi Stevia Farms
At gmail.com.
at gmail.com. Swadeshi is SWADESHI.
That's right.
Yeah.
Swadeshi
Okay.
Stevia Farms at gmail.com.
Sure. I'll made a note of it. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Mr. Suresh. Thank you. We'll
Okay.
end this
Thank
meeting
you.
now. Thank you.
Yeah.